Hello, hello. Welcome, guys, to another session of Creators One-on-One. As you guys have known, my mission is to create a community of entrepreneurs that are winning and they're dominating out there with our products and our services. And I also want to share and help you guys through business growth and make sure that the journey that I've gone through can help you along the way. Today, I'm super excited to have a really good friend of mine, Mr. Gabo from G Social Live, joining us today to share a lot of insight with you guys. Gabo, thank you so much for being here, buddy.
My pleasure, brother.
First and foremost, I wanted to kind of get, from your words, tell the audience a little bit about, yourself. What do you do? A little intro for us so we can get a little bit more context.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here and doing this. I know how important this is to create this relevant content for your audience, my audience, and so I'm excited for that. So I'll start by saying that, I'm originally from Mexico. I grew up in Mexico, was born in Mexico City, grew up there for 5 years. Then change started my life early. My whole family moved to San Diego. My mom hated it, and we were quickly back into the Mexican side. So I ended up growing up in TJ. From a lot of people, has a lot of good and bad rep, a lot of partying, a lot of, crazy stories about it. But for me, it was home. It was a good one. Early on, my parents were smart enough to put me on a sport because they figured that would be the way to make friends, to kind of like create a community. And to this day, I have to say that everything that I've done in the last 39 years has been because of that decision they made early on. The work ethic, the commitment, not only for me, for my parents, having to travel on the weekends, trying to sleep on hotels and the floor, on buses, all this struggle to become that player that I wanted to be, the best in the world with not all the resources available. So I think early on, I had to develop creativity, I had to develop when I was 12, 13, like how to find sponsors, how to find people that believe in me, how to tell a story. I tried the tour. I didn't make it even far. I quickly realized that, okay, this is not the place for me. These guys are 6'4", 6'5", and that's part of the being entrepreneurship, that sometimes you get punched in the face and you're just like, have to pivot and be like, okay, I did my best. I worked my hardest. I've done it all, but you have to sometimes be like, this is not it. But what's next? Eventually, I partnered up with a good friend, a business partner. We started tennis schools, and that was in 2012. And then we started to do tennis coaching. We did our own company, and we were successful for the first 3 years. As you already can see, like there's a lot of the things that kind of helped me where I am now, but nothing had to do with social media. Social media was non-existent back then. In 2012, that's when I first started kind of falling into a little bit of the media. I have a really good friend, Andy Lane. She's one of the OG bloggers here in Orange County. She's a really good friend. And she was the first one that kind of like reach out and say, hey, why don't you start a blog? She's like, there's not a lot of men bloggers, that are talking about style. You always like the style and you dress really well and you love all that stuff. I started to understand what a blog was, what a web page was. And that, again, from nothing, I went to school for, I have a major in economics and management. So nothing to do with digital, nothing to do with websites, nothing to do with any of that. So for any out there that's listening to this, like you don't have to have that background, like even more now, I think kids are now being raised and born into this digital world. But for us, we didn't have that. So I started a blog. That's why Gabo Style happened. And Gabo Style actually was a fashion blog, men's blog about trends and everything like that. But I think I was smart enough to not put something that was just fashion. And I think Gabo Style, I felt like it was also something that could merge into something else. And I could always felt like, I don't know what was in the future, but I knew that there had to be something bigger. And I felt like Gabo Style would always be doing things Gabo Style. How that was, I wasn't really sure. I was still developing like who I was as a person at that point. And I felt like that would be the way to go. So that blog teach me the ropes of the website, how to create a blog, how to like create posts, and started playing around with the camera because I was like, okay, well, I need to take some pictures. So I got my tripod, I got a entry-level camera. And as a blogger, I started putting my camera in front of me and try to get some pictures of myself. So really, again, that's when I first started playing around with a camera. I had nothing, I didn't understand cameras. I just put it on auto and, just shoot away and didn't know anything about Photoshop, Lightroom, nothing of that, So that was my journey into that. Then I started realizing that it was really helpful for business to start creating content. That's like around 2014, 2015. And I started creating a lot of content around the tennis academy that we had. We started doing lives on Facebook. We started doing, little snippets here and there. We started doing videos. I started that's when I really were I guess the journey of now what G Social is began. Courses, I got the Ty Lopez course for social media, which was great. And I think that's the biggest nugget that people need to start understanding, that the investment is a huge part of it. So I started investing in courses, in mentorships, you name it, Billy Jean, big shout out to him, to Mark Lack, personal branding. All of a sudden I became this new person. I'm like, okay, I'm consuming. It just my information pillar went so high. Like I knew so much more. Then I realized that, man, okay, I can build something. So I started doing a social media agency, and literally, like Ty Lopez said, I landed my first 3-4 clients within the first 2 months. All of a sudden, my first goal was to have the same income that I had on my tennis career, on my tennis school. The beauty of it, I only worked half a day with the tennis school because it was an after school program. So I had a lot of time. There was no excuse there. So that was lucky. I was blessed with that. So I started doing pretty much everything in the morning. I was building my social media agency. And then in the afternoon, I was doing tennis. And again, the grind for a year and a half, probably 12 months, dual life, like dressing up, taking pictures, changing into a coaching outfit on the tennis court. Yeah. I was living a double life. It was just like, man, I cannot do this forever. Like this is unreal. But that was the transition period that a lot of people, I think, know that they need to go through, but they're fearful of doing. But it's true. You have to take that time where you have a full-time job and you maybe hate it or you want to pivot, and you got to take the time to, forget about parties, forget about social life, forget about anything. You got to put your head down. And at this point I was having my first son, my first kid. So things were crazy, but
I think Gabo, that it's like it's a super, super important thing to really unpack, especially like during these times where there's a lot of uncertainty out there. So let's say that you have a job right now.
Yeah.
And you get home, like the reality is maybe that job is going to exist, maybe it's not going to exist anymore.
Yep.
And so you ended up having to do a transition of you have to do two things: set up your second flow.
Yep.
Like Grant Cardone says, set up your second flow of income.
Yep. Because
you don't know where the first one's going to be.
Yep.
And we've had a couple guests on that actually started their second flow from a creative side of things, printing or creating graphics or whatever.
Yep.
But it does take that double life. It does take you doing something more than the bare minimum to get a paycheck, right?
100%.
And the reality is, if we back up a little bit, so you're coming in from another country, your education gets you in, and you have scholarships, and you're in that sports mentality of like competing and winning, right?
Yep.
So the reality is, one thing that's super important that maybe you did it subconsciously is instead of having a singular thing that you do, you decided to build Gabo Style as a brand of you, and then you could pivot into different things.
Right.
As your life grows, you choose a different, let's say you're doing your coaching, or you're doing agency work, or you're doing something else.
Yep.
Your own personal brand can come with you,
Yep.
So maybe it's important to, now that you've done the education and the learning, and you've done the practices yourself, maybe unpack it a little bit for the audience, how important your personal brand is and how somebody can start setting up a personal brand. Because, that seems like a huge thing, right? But it starts somewhere, right?
Yep.
The brand of somebody, like, when I started, I had 2 followers, and one was my mom and one was my wife, and there's no brand there. So like, how can somebody start from zero, and like, what kind of actionable tips can you give people to start and continue to grow that personal brand side of things?
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely one of the most important things to do, a pivot, especially a long-term pivot. Personal brand will be, like you said, with you forever. The number one thing is understanding that you have a personal brand. Believe it or not, you have a personal brand. Even if you think you don't, which is called your reputation. Your reputation, it's your personal brand. People need to understand that. And if you can just grasp that concept, which is so basic, that you have a, whatever people, when you think about when somebody says your name, when somebody says, what's the first thing that people think about you, and now that I've been in this space for, now 3, 4, 5 years, you almost learn to take a bird's eye view of who you are. And I can tell you, it's not even like rubbing, but I know if they think about Gabo, it's like, dude, this guy's energy, this guy's this, you start thinking common things. I guarantee you, if they think Victor Pena, man, his work ethic, his willingness to help, he's, nonstop, like you have this personal brand that you have to develop. But for the person that doesn't think that, that's where they need to start. And how to take action on it, it's understanding that and then changing that narrative of who you are. If you're always been this lazy person, then you have to do some work to change it. If you've always been the partying guy, you have to do some work to change it. If you've always been the guy that shows up late, well, you have to be the guy that changes it. And that's where it starts, like who you are as a person, becomes your personal brand. And then that's where, if you're able to build something of value there, anything that you do, and that's where the whole thing about anything that you touch becomes gold. That's where it is. It's personal branding. At the highest level, you have Oprah, Tony Robbins, Gary Vee, anything they touch, it'll turn into gold. And the only reason it's because of their personal brand. That's your number one asset. If you're building that, if you don't know what to do right now, you're stuck. That's where you start. It takes zero money. It literally takes effort and understanding that it's so important, and taking the time to actually build on it. Taking the time to, it's not even about how fancy your Instagram is, your pictures, this. Now there's so many different ways to put yourself out there.
You do a good job about documenting what you're doing. What's your outlook on that? How do you see people perceiving that? Should people do it? Should they not do it?
That's a question that many people have, and I'll take this and say that you have to learn who you are. That's one thing that even for me, that you can tell, like, oh, this guy's extrovert and he loves to be on camera. He likes you. I'm still in the journey to find out exactly where I fit, where I am going to be that bigger person, where am I growing to who I am. And I think for people that are not in this space, it's super scary, because they're like, I don't know where, I don't want to show this and I don't want to show that. And the biggest thing here is understanding that if you document, if you put everything out there, it serves as such a big filter to have a good life. Because people, I tell you this, and I'll be completely honest, people that are afraid sometimes to do this, it's because they have something that they're not happy with. They know they binge watch Netflix. They know you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. You don't want to chronicle like your
no.
whole season of Narcos.
No, it's accountability, man. When you put yourself out there, like I don't fake to be a good dad.
Yeah.
I am a good dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't fake to do this. I am that, but that's so hard.
Yeah.
That's so hard, but that's the secret of it. Like, if you clean up, like I would start, instead of thinking about documenting before cleaning your life, I would say, be first a good person, clean your life first, and then the documentation, it becomes easy. And if we go even deeper into that, the hack is to be a good person. The hack is not to just be nice to the executives. The hack is to be nice to the valet people, to the people that are cleaning, to the gardeners, to the cooks. That's what it's the hack. Because a lot of people think,
number one hack is to be a legit person.
Yep. I mean,
crazy, right?
So crazy. It's almost like rocket science. Like, dude, just be good, dude.
Guys, like, the people that are winning are on social media, and they're documenting and they're sharing, because people are connecting. Getting attention is super important, and that's where the eyeballs are, right? Yeah. So if you don't like social media, if you don't want to do it, I think it's important to figure out why. Because it's the cheapest way that you're going to get attention, and it's the best way that you can get in front of customers and letting them know what you do and who you are.
It's about structuring what you want to do. First, understand, there's a couple of things. The way you're going to go out on the social media world is either written, audio, or video. That's it. You have three options. So I would start there. Am I good on camera? And then by saying good on camera, don't judge yourself to the people that have been doing this for 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
The being good in camera, there's something, the three things, audio, written, and video, you're going to get better as you go, but for example, me, I already understand that writing for me just, it's just hard, and then, it's not the way to do it. For me, it became video, and then video can become really easily audio, but you got to have the main one that you feel like this is where I am going to be good, so starting a blog, there's so many resources and great people that can help you how to set up your blog, how to understand SEO, how to understand, and it might sound like so hard, but nowadays there's so much content and good content out there that it's a no-brainer. You should have a website that lives where you are there. That's number one,
Your first action is make sure you have your digital footprint.
Yep.
You have your site, and then you have your basic social media accounts, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is going to be super powerful. It's already starting. And obviously your Facebook and your Facebook page. Don't worry about, what am I going to do on there? How's it going to look? What's my profile going to look like? Who cares, right? Who cares right now? The main point is to get started and do something where you're there. Your stuff is there. Because it doesn't matter what content you're doing, it matters getting started. So the number one rule about social media, guys, is get started. I think that's super clear. And I wanted to highlight that, Gabo, because I do that with a lot of stuff, right? I tend to overcomplicate it.
Yep.
And then I have to force myself to distill it down, right?
Yep.
Like, for example, I know I need to work out, right? But you know what? My shoes are beat up and I don't have the right outfit. And we're like, you know what? I need to go get the outfit before I can go. No, you know what? Get your ass out there and run around with some beat up shoes and some fucked up outfit, right?
Yep.
So we tend to overcomplicate things. And that's why I want to highlight that for people to get started. People that are in the printing business, what's winning, guys? A lot of our customers are just documenting themselves doing the artwork, printing it, prepping it, how their shop looks like it's super basic, and what kind of quality they're printing. And then they hashtag it on our social media. Hashtag FreeJet330TX Plus or hashtag FreeJet330 or DTG.
Yep.
If you don't want to do it, guys, hire somebody that will do it for you.
Yep.
And there's different companies that will do it for you for a reasonable amount of money. I know that G Social, you have some good plans for people to reach out to you. If you're resistant to doing anything, then just outsource it, because you'll see that it's required for your business to grow. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it is required, right? So if you don't want to do it, just like people hire bookkeepers because you don't want to do the bookkeeping, make sure you hire an agency or an agency partner that can help you, right? So Gabo, where can people reach out to you if they want to go that route?
The main webpage is gsocialnow.com. So it's gsocialnow.com, and that's where the main page of the agency works, and we have all our services there. We have video testimonials. We have you get a pretty good idea of what we do. You get to see our services. And also the other part of G Social is the media side of it. And that's where you can see the online magazine where we feature companies like yours, companies in golf industry. And that's another thing that for people to I think they can take this away. If some people are listening to this and they're a little more advanced and they have a basic understanding of social media and they're doing that, I think the biggest thing that people can take it to the next level, because a lot of the people that work with you are entrepreneurs. I would say 100% of them. You sell a great product for entrepreneurship and for people to start a business from scratch. So as you go through this journey and your business grows, because I know you have a lot of successful people that are actually doing 6, 7, 8 figures, So I think the next step would be to understand that every company or every entrepreneur at the end of the day needs to understand that they need to be a media company. That's the top level. Like, that's when you're like, man, you've done well, and understanding that for me, it's a great, I think, competitive advantage, because I'm not only like, at the core of it, we're a video production company, a marketing company, and that's it. And there's a lot of them. You go to Google and you can find, hundreds of them per city. The one thing that we have like ahead of us is like, we're not just that, we're a media company. Like I always talk about 3 pillars. You need to have your financials, you need to have your network and your education, and all those 3, kind of like go hand in hand. And sometimes you only have the attention to work on one, but that allows the other ones to grow. So wherever you are in your journey, you might think like, you know what, I need to focus on my education, So if you really think about, and I won't go too much into detail in it, but education, your network and your financial.
I don't want to do just programs that are based on, hey guys, this is what you should be doing. I want to make sure that we're unpacking legit challenges creators, customers, people, even yourself are having in your businesses, so that those same issues or those same challenges some other people could be having that we can unpack and help them with, right? So
personally for me is being as a creator, as a creative, my attention to action, and deep action rather than action here, action here, action here, action here, action here. And I'm trying to push 10 balls ahead and, weeks go by, months go by, and I'm just, 10 feet ahead rather than driving that one thing 100 feet, then sprinting back.
You're used to pushing a lot of different projects forward for customers, right? Mm-hmm. And then when it comes to your own projects and ideas, you try to do it the same way. The reality is, and it's the hardest thing to really buy into, and it was for me, right? I think that I could do multiple things at the same time, right? That's what I think. The reality is that we can't. There's 57,000 things to do. The first thing we do is outline what the priorities are and then how we can push them forward and when are they due.
Got it.
Right? So I would say number one, it would be like you have to focus on one thing. Mm-hmm. And you focus on that one thing and you turn off your email notifications. You turn off your everything. You have the focus time. And I have to do it for myself. That's the only reason I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I have to do it for myself because I have to turn everything off and I have to focus for that 1 or 2 hours and you get an insane amount of work done.
Yeah.
Because any project that you do, it literally takes you 30 minutes to an hour just to unpack it and to get into the mode.
Yeah.
And then the actual work comes right after that. And then the other thing is when those ideas rush in during that hour or two, because what happens to me is new ideas and new shit rushes in during that time, right?
Yeah.
You're laughing because the same shit happens to you.
100%.
So what I'm doing is I identify now. So if it's happening, I say, all right, is this interruption worthwhile? And what I do is I have a place for it now. So I go to my Evernote where my ideas live, and then I put it in there. Bam, 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 write it out, unpack it, save it, and then I go back to my task. Now it's out of the way. It's in my idea list because it was worthwhile. If it wasn't worthwhile, I'm like, I'm busy right now. If that thought comes again, I'm going to unpack it then. So these are like the tips and tricks that I've learned, and you should see my idea list, dude. I'm not like, and it's crazy. I have the resources here. I have scientists. I have R&D, research and development. I have manufacturing. This is the ultimate nerd sandbox and play box. And I have to learn to control myself because even your team needs to focus and needs to see things through, right? Yeah. And if you're all over the place and you don't let them complete things and you don't let them win and have small wins because your ideas are all over the place, then you can't go on to the next thing.
Yeah. I think the golden nugget here is understanding that you're never that tight as you think. You can always get tired, always get tired. You feel you don't have time to start a new business, you're lying to yourself. You're lying to yourself. If you don't think you have time to get in better shape, you're lying to yourself. If you feel like you don't have time to have a better relationship with your wife, with your kids, with your family, with your parents, you're lying to yourself. There's time. It's just how we use it and the amount of squeeze that we put into the time that we have for ourselves. So when you're breaking down into like organizing yourself, priorities, That's huge. And I realized for myself that more than ever, especially after this pandemic, more than ever, has my life been more balanced. The one thing that you nailed it was you mentioned it, like you help people. The first thing that you check is going to a place where they have their social footprint and having something that they can buy right away.
Yeah.
That's where I need to get that done. Because even today, let's say somebody's watching this, and they want to go and say, dude, this guy's great. I love this guy. I want him to get my social media done tomorrow. They should have a button where they can go. And I know it. Yeah. I just don't have it. Yeah. They should have a button where they can book me tomorrow. And hey, I want my social media done in a week. This is how much it is. And they'll pay it. I don't have that. So that's something that if you can give me some, how do you structure that to get from idea to completion?
Yeah. So this is super important, guys, because I know some of you that reach out to me, I might beat you up a little bit and bully you.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if there's one thing, you have to make it easy for your customer to purchase from you and remove any friction, right? Because our attention span is not what it was. Like we want to understand what you offer, and then we want to have options based on our budgets, right? And then we want to go for it, like super fast, right? So number one for you is going to identify 3 packages that people can buy from you, right? And somebody that's just starting off, somebody that's somewhere in the middle, and somebody that wants an advanced package, right? So I always tell my customers, whether you're selling a t-shirt or a website or whatever, you don't want to be sitting down each time and re-quoting the same services over and over again.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's time consuming, and you always end up to the same thing. You're charging for time, right? Once you sit down and identify your 3 packages, what they are, it forces you to put a price to it. It forces you to put a timeline to it.
Yeah.
And then it makes you create an offer that you can later send people there, right? But you would be shy to send people to a page that doesn't have a call to action and it doesn't have an offer.
That's
and
a good point.
By shy, I mean like you would do it less. So guys, make sure that if you're having the same challenge where you're quoting people all the time, make sure you have software, systems, prices. Your offer is super clean and easy to understand, where somebody's not going to scroll past it. And that is a huge challenge. And make sure that you spend the time to focus on it. And if you don't want to spend the time focusing on it, then hire the experts to be able to help you through it. Because once you get past the hurdle, we want to have new problems. I mean, I could talk with you all day, Gabo, and I really appreciate like the insight that you gave people on social media. I really appreciate what you're doing here, sharing your challenges so that others can go through and get benefits from the answers. And guys, like, make sure that you're subscribing to this content, share it with people, comment. It really helps all of the bots and algorithms display our videos. It's super important for us, so make sure you do that. And if you're a hater, I love you guys too. Make sure you keep hating. Hit the hate button on there, comment some more, share to all the other haters so that they could also hate. And make sure that you follow at OmniPrint International, at Gabo Style. gsocialnow.com is where you can get a hold of Gabo, and hopefully he'll have some offers for you.
That's right. Oh my God, the OmniPrint offer. By the time this video comes out and you're watching this, guys, there's going to be something for you.
There you go. Gabo, thank you so much, buddy. It was a great time.
Yes, absolutely.
I really appreciate you being on here.
Oh, man, my pleasure. It was great. And I'm sure it helped somebody out there. And, you know, we've done a good thing today.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Talk to you soon.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers, buddy.